Hello, welcome to Cerulean Arts Gallery. Tonight we're speaking with Nancy Halbert in conjunction with her Cerulean Arts Collective Exhibition, which is on view now through June 1st. Hello, Nancy.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Great, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about the new show, please.
Okay. Well, I was told, we picked a date last July, I believe, and I had already started painting for the first time without t teaching and demonstrating the loose brushstrokes of watercolor and pastels. I was creating my own mixed media flowers arrangements from my that I had picked from my yard or other people's yards on. I said, well, wouldn't it be nice if I just had a series of those to go in the new show that would take place this recently, this May? And so, ironically, I did it, but the flowers are all made up. I would have flowers in front of me, but I got to the point where I was trying to get real with them, and it was not to my advantage, just like everything else I paint. It's a step away from reality, as is life. And I just decided to do the flowers and figures. Typically, when I've shown with you, I've had landscapes and figures, but this time I put in the flowers and I decided to just go with all figures and just focus on what I felt most comfortable in at the time all year. And um, ironically, I typically go to figure workshops or open studios where you can draw from a model, but I was not able to do that. So a lot of them are from sketches from when I did from journals and notebooks and charcoal paper and I or they're from books and I just decided to use the pastels loosely for quite a few of them. There were quite a few that didn't make it, that didn't quite get make it into the show. But then I bought a bunch of these 36 by 24, which is probably my favorite size canvas to paint on. And I had done this years ago where I would take portions of a figure and that one is in lieu of the baseball season, which I'm very much into baseball and I always have been, and that's called Batter Up. And it just more and more developed. In my mind, people can't see it, but at the reception, someone I told them the name and they went, "Oh yeah, now I see it." So I was getting excited for baseball. I think he was one of the last I did because the season had just begun and the show had to get wrapped up as far as what I was painting for it. So there's other ways people can see it, but that's what I choose as I make my titles after I've painted a painting and what it comes to me. This one was a model. Uh, it was a book, and it was a pose in this book for artists, and it had imagery of how you can paint from the book and the models that are sitting in the book. And I just loved this pose, and um, I didn't know what she was, what was, it was very different for me. But in the end, I called her taking flight, similar to like a bird, it looked like happening in my mind, and yet resting at the same time, maybe in some grasses or something. So, um, yeah, so these three came from like January, February, and March. This one was the first of those three, 36 by 24. And I was doing like minimal type of mark making, and these were colors that I used to use. Um, just the siennas. And I ordered new colored paint, and I was really playing with the purples and the lavenders and the olives and enjoying the new purchases I made for this show. And I just really wanted to stay loose with these three. And she's had several names, and I'm just really happy with that wall and the way the three figures complement each other with the one in the middle. Um, and that they do have this feeling of gesture and movement and motion, which I like to convey. Um, the most is just the gestural feeling of figure taking off or movement, as in my background of dance. Um, the woman actually the woman on the okay, so she's part of the pastel figures that I did, and I really enjoyed the pastel on paper moving through shapes. She does have this realism type of Mona Lisa background in some way, but she is definitely in a pool of water. Um, and something that is very healing for me, with my spine problems that I do have and have had to nurse this last year. She's part of the water and the nature and what I've missed out on, having to convalesce this year with some new spine issues. So, um, and she does look very nice with this this was, I think, was like painted November, December, and then it does have a political bent to it, as it's called saddened. Uh, and the figure, there's a lot of writing in throughout it, and it's a language that is my own. Like I don't really, it's like I'm not comparing myself to Da Vinci, but there are words that I've written in there that are um just what represents to me the political viewpoint of what's going on in the world. And this was my contribution to that sadness. Um, and yet it still has the gestural feeling of movement and dance and everything else I like to include in a painting. And I will never forget my world of dance. So prior to painting, but it is a head down, and it is a red hair person with a head down, and the state of the world as it had occurred in the last 4 months, the political nature of it all. Yes, this wall, the large one was done. I guess I'm doing this chronologically in my mind. Not that you hung it that way because you wouldn't have known, but this was done first from all of them, like probably back in October, September. And oh, I'm gonna do my couples, which I like to do, and you have been successful in selling um, one or two of them. I can't remember, but so this is a couple, and I really have this thing about putting them back to back, or like opposite opposing viewpoints. When I do paint couples, they're in it together, but they're not, and there is this communication, but there isn't. And I feel like it is indicative of like real relationships when I paint these couples. And I do layer pastels on top of paint, and it shows my love of drawing as well. And it may or may not be correct where the shoulder lands, next to the neck, next to the head, but that it only makes sense like if you're not looking for it, you know. Sometimes they're outrageous and they don't make sense, and then they don't happen, or they have to get a lot of gesso and covered, and it's like white out and restart over again. But the colors were really fascinating. Once again, the new colors that I ordered and had fun with painting, and this year, and um, so that the couple is saying something by not talking to each other, by the two people not talking to each other or face to face. Uh, this was part of the arrangements of the florals, and I found a photo of a picture and I from my sketchbooks, and she didn't have the flowers. It was just a pose, you know, and I just put the flowers, I put a desk by her. I did my drawing lines, and I did it on dark paper, and I I just put the arrangement in, and that's hence why they're called arrangements, because I seem to have just made arrangements with the flowers and these figures this time around. And she is holding one rose or one red flower dangling from her hand, and there's definitely a melancholy. I think all of them have some sort of emotional fortitude that I've put out this last year in order to paint something meaningful to me this time around, and hopefully to the audience. Uh, this was on dark paper once again. I was exploring colors on dark paper, and there's there's I think at one point it was something about, oh wow, I see, like now I'm looking and I see multiple faces in it. That's really interesting how there's more to it than I even saw originally. And I think that's what my goal is in paint, is for the audience to view it as like being able to return to it. So if you purchase it, you'll see something else every single time you look at it. And now I see a face one way, and then I see a person, like a male's face, coming up and around another way. And none of that's really deliberate. It's just the way the pastels and the loose way that I hold them. Um, I think that the mark making is very important to me. And I think the colors are similar. The way I created that one is similar to the large one, where the colors are the outline of the figure is on top of shapes of paint. And it's like the shape can't live without the line, and the line can't live without the shape, if that makes sense. It wouldn't stand up. So it's fun to work on dark paper for sure. So these three came, the one in the middle, I had done back in like December when it was cold, and it was just like when like just this seemed, to me, felt like a very long winter. And these were these colors that I had purchased once again, and you could see how much, knowing my artwork as Cerulean does, you could see the vibrancy compared to some of the darker imagery that I've had in the past, or the siennas that I used. There's this beautiful cobalt turquoise in it, and this quinactidones are in it, and I really moved her a lot she was not always standing where she's standing inside that canvas. And she was very challenging to create the shape around the same idea that I was using for that pastel that was nearby. Just putting in the shapes and then finding the figure. So that was cool. That was fun for me. That was a challenge, but it was also fun. Um, that one was uh like holding the paintbrush differently, um, and finding the pose and the outdoorness again, bringing the outdoor indoor. And I once got a grant for my choreography, and I was at the Painted Bride, and it was a dance that was outside and inside, and we had a video person involved, and he taped us dancing in different spaces in Philly, and it was like this indoor outdoor. And I wanted to capture that feeling with some of these where she's a figure, she's part sky, part land, like what's going on. Um, and that classic pose, whether it's correct or not, and the shoulder, once again, Mike, where it's supposed to be, I didn't really get too hung up on that. I just wanted these vibrant colors this time around for this particular show. They're a little more yellow in my camera lens, but maybe your camera will get it situated and settled down a little bit when you go to post them. But yeah, those are two very different. You would think two different painters had painted them, but it all comes from me, and I'm not sure why they all sometimes look so different from one another. But this one I really love. She's probably the last one I did for this show, and I just had so much fun with her, and I didn't draw on the pain of a back surgery, which I have been known, I've had several, and I just wanted her to have this normal quality to her spine, which, I don't have because of injuries and arthritis. But I also like the idea that she's holding maybe a dog or a cat. We're not really sure what that black shape is. And, you know, on the left, her right. And once again, I was just really having fun with this gray that I found and these muted. I purchased some colors that were for figures to use for a real, a figurative painter that's realistic. And I said, "Oh, I'm going to use these." And the pinks and the beiges. And I did post that on Facebook, and someone said, "Wow, that's the perfect color for a figure." And I was like, "Well, good." Yeah, and that's even though she's nowhere near realistic, she still has those colors to her. And then something about her hair and just flying in the wind. I don't know. Both of those, all three of those walls were about the outdoors and the sky and keeping nature as part of the the point to painting for this year's show. Any thoughts, Michael? Question, concern, anything?
No, it's a great show, Nancy. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. And I really enjoyed this like one at a time. I mean, they were all going on. Several were going on at once, but mostly it was just taking my time one at a time this time and doing it by month. And that was a very cool feeling. I appreciate the distraction.
When the show is up through June 1st, we hope people come down to check it out. And everything's also available on our website, ceruleanarts.com.
Okay, well, good
Yeah,
luck and
thanks so
thank you
much.
very much.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here and have a great night.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.